Have you ever wondered why someone makes 10 or even 100 times as much as you make in a given year? Myron Golden was talking about this a few months ago, and it made me think about my own life and my own journey from being on food stamps at one point for, a long time, being homeless, having housing insecurity, food insecurity for most of my adult life and as a child, right? I'm in my 40s now, and until I was 35, I didn't make more than $20,000 in a given year, and that was a good year. It was usually like 5,000 or somewhere around that. I was always behind, I always felt underwater, and at the same time I felt like there was something about me that would make me become a millionaire one day. It was just inevitable to me, but I couldn't understand why I was so low to the ground when it came to finances. Now, today, I have two books out on major publishers. One is called It's About Damn Time. You see Your First Million behind me, but this is Your First Million. So, we're talking about millions, right? So things have changed. And it was only 9 years ago that I was sleeping on the floor of an airport. And today I have a venture fund. I have raised tens of millions of dollars. I've generated millions of dollars for myself and other people. And I've been around, and I'm not exaggerating, I've been around thousands of millionaires and even some billionaires because I work with so many different investors over the years. I have a joint venture with Mark Cuban for $6 million. He talks about that all the time. And so much has changed, but I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I think about like all the work that I do when I do these YouTube videos, when I work on my memberships. It's really like my happy place. It's the doing the work. I'm not really excited by all of the accessories of that. And so I think I'll always be an entrepreneur. But I was the same person. I was the same entrepreneur 10 years ago when I was homeless as I am now in these rooms. So it made me think about that. And I think, and I know because I essentially talk about it in these two books, is that it was a mindset shift. Yes, I mean, so important. Don't skip the mindset shift part. That's essentially what this video is about. But it was also this action that I had to take. I couldn't just let life keep happening to me. If you know what I'm talking about, if that feels like it resonates with you, let me know in the comments because I feel like I'm going to talk directly to you right now. And I know that some of this resonate with you. So if you're feeling a little stuck or a lot stuck, I want us to think about, and I want you to think about what separates you from someone who's making 10 times what you make in a year. And one of the things I realized is that I had been programmed or trained to believe that, oh, you get a job, or in my case, I was always on the unbeaten path, right? So I was like, you start a company or you start this project, you sell these items, but it's a certain amount of money that you get. And then as you get older, you make more. And as you get older, you make more. And hopefully you get to retire with something that gives you stability for those years that you're retired. It's very specific. I always said, "Oh, I want to be a millionaire. I want to make my first million," but I never really knew what that meant and how it applied to the real world. And what I learned, what has separated the broke and homeless version of me from the version who knows how to turn on a six-figure deal like a faucet, right? Put $100,000 into the hands of someone or myself when I need to. What separates us, the two, the same person, but two different situations, is this understanding that there are no limits and there are no guardrails to the amount of money and resources that I am supposed to have. There's no like box around, oh, this is yours and this is yours and this is yours. And it does not mean that I need to be greedy or that I need to take from others. Doesn't mean that. I don't subscribe to that. But what it does mean is I look at it like if you think about like your friend group or your people who are around you who you talk to the most, sometimes some of them, think about maybe one or two that you can think of. They kind of feel like they're in a corner of a room. And let's say the room is the world and it's all of its abundance and all of its opportunities. And they're in this room and they've made something. They have some success or they got some break. Something broke in a good way. They take it and they hold it like a football right in their gut, right? And they turn to the corner and they get in the corner of the room and they hold on to it tight, like it's a fragile egg or something that can break and that they don't want anybody else to see. Because if they do, maybe it'll fall out of their hands or maybe they'll lose it or maybe it'll be stolen. And so they hold on to it in the corner and their back is faced, their back is faced to the abundance. Meanwhile, if they were to just turn around, they would see all of the abundance that's still theirs, still available to them. And there would be day by day by day more that they could get. But they're over here just so precious and so holding on to this thing. Does anybody in your life, including yourself maybe, does that resonate with you that you know someone like that? And if you're thinking, that's actually how I operate because I'm a little scared of losing, then this might be this breakthrough that you need where you don't no longer look at things in fear of, okay, let's go through the list. Like fear of what if I lose everything that I put together? What if there's not enough for all of us? What if I'm not good enough to get more, right? What if the world or the economics or this or that or who's president, what if that changes everything for me? These fears are holding you back from abundance. And that's what I realized. That's what I figured out was, I've always had this high risk tolerance. It wasn't like I was afraid of money or afraid of success, but I always thought there's only so much over here that I might end up with. So my numbers were high for my friend group and my family group. I would say I want $1 million. But when I got into that arena with the other people with the $1 million, I quickly realized, oh, that's chump change to them. That's a game to them. They're talking about tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars at a clip at each transaction. I remember I was in a line at a bank, at my bank, maybe 2 years ago, something like that. And, it was during a time where people were wearing masks and we were trying to stay away from each other a little bit. And so they had us outside of the bank around the corner, kind of spaced out. But there was this guy on the phone, and I quickly realized he's a doctor. He was, on his break, his lunch break or something, going to the bank. And he was on the phone and he he said to the whoever was on the phone, he said, "Yeah, I have this convertible note that I want to," meaning it's just a loan. It's a mechanism in investing. And he said, "I have this convertible note that I want to cash out. Yeah, I think it's like 300 or 400 thousand dollars. Can you do that? Can you do that?" Like on the phone with someone like a broker or someone, wealth manager. Then it was the 3 or 400, and it was the or that got me. It was like he doesn't know. He doesn't know if it was 300,000 or 400,000. His $100,000 was a rounding error for him and it was on his lunch break and a break from going into the bank to do a bigger transaction, most likely. And I was reminded of this is how a lot of people operate. This is how a lot of people live. And we only get this one chance at life. That's what I believe. You only get this one chance. So why don't I play that game? Why don't I play in that arena and with that mindset? And thankfully, I'd already started by then. of course, in the last 9 years or so. But there's something that always reminds me because I am such an entrepreneur. I am such a feet on the ground when it comes to like the work now, head in the clouds when it comes to the imagination and the dreaming and the vision, which is incredibly valuable. But it was because it was so recent that I had lived that life and even today, it's not like I'm just rolling in dollars. I'm not, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm just like flush with capital and I'll never have to work again. I'm still working. I'm still building. I'm still taking care of a lot of people in my family. So to hear that conversation or that side of the conversation from that doctor was so interesting. And I said, you know what? He probably, I'm just assuming, I don't know, but he probably has never really had to worry about money, if I had to guess. And to him, it wasn't a weird thing to say. Um, but I've had to worry about money for most of my life. More than 75% of my life, I had to. And more than that, we again still worry about money. That's still a thing. But instead of worrying about it, I just turn the faucet on. So the thing still happens where the money is needed and the problems are bigger. But now I don't go in the corner. I don't go in the corner and turn my back and hold on to the little that I have. I turn towards the abundance and I say, how can I turn the faucet on? How do I attract this? And then time after time after time, it happens. I was looking at a painting in my living room this morning. And it's a painting that cost $50,000. $50,000. And it's the largest painting of this artist's collection. And we've become friends and it's been really wonderful. But let me tell you a cool, quick story. A few years ago, I found this artist and I just loved his work. Just immediately, it spoke to me. And I was no longer homeless. I was like living in a nice apartment in West Hollywood. I had started my funds. Things were going well, but I didn't have a lot of money personally. I'd raised probably 2 or 3 million, but didn't have personal money. And so I got in touch with him and I ordered a $100 print of the painting that I liked. And it was a Tupac painting. And I ordered a $100 print. And then I spent another $100 on the frame to go down the street and get this custom frame for it. And it was, to me, that was very expensive at the time. And then when we talked about it, and I told him how much I loved his work and I just thought his work was so great, he came by my apartment and he was on his way to something. I didn't know what, but he was on his way to something, but he stopped by and it was like, oh my God, the artist is here and he's stopping by to see. It's so incredible. And it was because I had it kind of positioned in a nice way and it was kind of nice. So he wanted to see it. And that was that. We met each other. Fast forward just maybe 2 years, maybe 2 or 3 years, fast forward. His painting at the time, I think his most expensive painting was like $7,000. And I could not afford that. It was something I couldn't do. But fast forward 2 or 3 years, his most expensive painting is now $50,000. And I'm able to afford it and I buy it. And when he comes over to see that painting installed in my home, because it was installed in a home earlier, and we had the entire wall behind it painted in the studio color that you put behind a painting. That's how fancy it was. It just wasn't on a white wall. It was in the studio color that was recommended to be there, like it was a museum wall. When he came by and we had a little gathering of friends and we had it catered and it was really wonderful. You may have seen a picture or two with Jesse Williams there and a few other people were there to see this beautiful, huge 9-foot painting that's in 3D. He told me that when he came over 3 years prior, he was on his way to work as a server as a waiter at a restaurant. And he didn't tell me that because he wanted to make sure that I felt this artist vibe, this enigma. And we just looked at each other and we're like, I was like, I could only afford the $100, and the $100 frame was tough for me, but I wanted it to be beautifully presented. And he said, yeah, and when you gave me that $100, that was a big deal to me, because that's like a shift. So we both went from this to that because his paintings became so valuable over those short months because he just kept at it and he knew his value and he didn't let his lack stop him from taking on the big orders and for investing in himself and investing in the time that it takes to become an even better artist and going into the rooms. One of the biggest things I want you to understand is that if you track most of the success of the people that you look up to or admire or even just study, most of their success, I want to say 80 to 90%, I'm going to guess, because that's the ratio for me, is about being in certain rooms, being in the room with people who can make things happen. And it's not because they're necessarily more powerful, which, it does make sense to be in rooms that are more powerful than you are. But it's mostly about the fact that at the end of the day, all of us were babies. All of us were children. All of us had fears and dreams and desires. And we're all humans walking around. And it's a conversation with one person and another person. Even if you're selling into corporations, you're doing $100,000 deal with a corporation. I can tell you from experience, because I've done several of those, it's me and a person. It's me and three people making a decision. And they are people talking to each other at the end of the day. And so the more you get yourself into rooms where you can see how people live in a way that you want to live, the way that you aspire, and the more that you get yourself into rooms where you can connect with people on a human level, the more opportunity you will have and the faster you will accumulate money, the faster you will make money and learn how to make more money. It's a numbers game, as Myron was saying. It is just a matter of compressing time. If you say, I want to, I make $80,000 a year doing XYZ, and I want to make $80,000 a year doing something else, or I want to make $160,000 a year doing the same thing. That's wonderful. Like, do that. First, do that because walk towards that, because what most people will do is say that to themselves and they won't do anything about it. This is your wake up call. This is the moment where you have to say, is this all there is? Is this all there is? And then the second part of that is to start to ask yourself, well, why can't I make that every month? Why can't I make 80,000 every month? You know what $83,333 per month is? It's $1 million a year. And I can tell you that when I was sleeping on the floor of the San Francisco airport, or I was going to the grocery store hoping that my card from my bank would let me go overdraft so I could get the food, or when I had the food stamps, hoping I wouldn't run out, or when I was sleeping at the hostel in Hollywood and hearing gunshots and domestic violence next door, and I was watching people deal drugs right around me and was stepping over bugs, to get to the communal bathroom, which is everything that I did less than 10 years ago. I can tell you that I didn't, in that moment, know that the millions would be right around the corner. And I don't talk about this so much, I don't talk about those details so much on both sides. I don't talk about a lot of the things that I dealt with because it triggers me and it's emotional and it's traumatic. And some of it I'll never talk about. But I also don't talk about all of the good things that have happened or the experiences that I get to have. Like it's not that I want to keep it from anyone or gatekeep it even. It's just that I'm more concerned about making sure that other people can come with me. So it's it's a lot about that. But in my books, I talk a little bit about experiences. Um, but there's so many times where I've been in rooms where it's been like, a multi-millionaire or a superstar singer or actor. I mean, think back just this year alone. I've been in rooms that just would blow my mind 10 years ago. Um, yeah, I remember just 2 weeks ago, I was talking to the CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, and his wife, Willow, and just having a conversation with them about a couple of things. And I thought, oh, you know what? This isn't weird. This isn't not normal. I deserve to be here. I deserve to be in this conversation. And they deserve they're fortunate to get to hear what I have to say. Like it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm with this guy, or whether you like him or not. It wasn't like that. I mentioned Jesse Williams earlier. He was in my home and looking at the painting, and we got to see each other a couple of times in New York. And there's no reason to sit here and just like name drop, but the point of it is that the life that you have right now, no matter where you are, you could be successful, because I know a lot of people who watch these videos are successful, but the life you have right now could be drastically different in 5 to 10 years. And the only way that it's drastically different in 5 to 10 years is if you start doing something today. If you start making a change today, if you act today, that's the only way it works. Because what I did was I remember I was on the floor of the airport, and I rolled up my jeans and I put it under my head as a pillow, and I put my suitcase in front of my face because I didn't want people to like see my face. And it was very traumatic. And the lights were blaring, these very, very bright lights at the airport because it was an airport all night long. So there was never any kind of like rest from that. And um, I remember just thinking to myself, when is this going to be over? When is this going to end? Will I ever get out of this? And I remember having those thoughts. And then I remember there was a day, and I don't remember what day it was, and I don't remember what happened and why this happened, but I remember there was a day in that airport because I was there for a while. And I remember there was a day in that airport after days and days of using the bathrooms to groom and to clean, and going into the yoga room for the shower and whatever. I remember thinking, I'm no longer going to ask myself, when is this going to be over? I'm now going to make a decision that this will be over, that this will end, that I will not live like this any longer. I made a decision, and I said, I will get out of this situation. And that is the only thing that is possible. I will not be here a month from now. I refuse to. I will be in better circumstances. And it sounds simple because you're like, well, yeah, you're in these circumstances. Don't you wish that you were out of them? Yeah, I wished all the time. I hoped all the time. But let me tell you what the key was. It was deciding. I decided I'm going to do this. I decided. One is one version is like life happening to you, and the other version is you happening to life. It's like a Bruce Willis kind of thing, right? Like an action figure movie. One is life happening to you. Put this in the comments if you're still with me. Say life happening to you or you happening to life if you're still with me. Because if you're still with me, let me tell you something right now. There's something that's going to change in your life. Because I am inviting you to make a decision right now that first you're going to get the 2x a year. You're going to get the making the money the way you want to make it. Then you're going to 2x that. So first is getting it the way you want to. Then it's 2xing that. And then it's 10xing that. And then after the 10x, you can figure out the rest of it because you've got that muscle built. But you're going to decide. You're not going to hope. You're not going to guess. You're not going to pray. You can do all that in addition to it for sure. But you're going to decide. You're going to decide that that's what you're going to do. And so many people have these skills and these abilities that they don't really bank as assets. They don't really clock it as an asset, but it is. When you think about someone who's rich and someone who's successful and someone who's maybe famous or whatever your measurement of success is, think about a person's name that comes to mind that you're like, oh, I'd like to make what they make or something like that. Maybe even somebody who we don't know, but you know them, someone that you know around town or you've read about. What is their actual skill? When you think about it, what is their actual skill? Are they doing anything superhuman? Now, yes, there's some people who are like literal brain surgeons and rocket scientists and all of that. Cool. They have a skill. That's great. But brain surgeons and rocket scientists aren't, for the ones that I know, aren't multi millionaires unless they create something, they invent something. They don't make that kind of money off of salaries, even if it's a high salary, the tens of millions of dollars. They make it off of inventing something. You can invent something. You can see a pain point and make something out of that. You can create IP, intellectual property. The idea and the purpose is to make assets, is to build assets. You want to build assets that make money continuously for you. I think of YouTube videos as assets. And I know a lot of people do too, who make money from YouTube, not just from the monetization on YouTube, but as an example, the ability to send people to your different offers. And that video is playing while you're asleep. That's an asset, every single one of them, especially the ones that are performing well. A membership is an asset. I've learned that this year because I made $100,000 in the first 2 months of running my memberships as an experiment. And I've taken now what I've learned from that experience and I'm going to crank it up and say, okay, how do I 10x that?